Next item on the list. A French court says Steam must allow users to resell digital games. You guys can go read this story from Nathan Grayson over at Kotaku. I don't want to read this verbatim because essentially what happened is back in 2015, a consumer rights organization, UFCQ Quasier, I believe is how you say that. I have no idea. Quasier. Oh my gosh, I just dropped a Gatorade bottle cap in my... It's just floating around in there. I don't know if you can see that. Bottle cap just floating around because I'm an idiot that dropped it on there thinking it was the cap to it. Anyway, they sued they sued Valve over a few things, but one of those things was this idea that you were not able to resell the games that you have purchased. And so the argument was, I bought a product, I own that product, I should have the right to resell said product. If there's a market to resell this thing to somebody that's interested, I should be able to. Just like if I buy a car, I should be able to go out, resell that car. If I buy a computer, I should be able to go out and resell that computer. If I buy an Xbox, I can go out and resell that Xbox. If I buy a physical disc game, I can go out and resell that physical disc-based game. And so that was K. Quasier's argument, to which Valve responded, you're not purchasing the game, you are they tried to classify themselves as a subscription service, that you were subscribing to receive the game. In essence, what they were arguing was, you don't buy the game, you purchase a license to access the game that is non-transferable. And the French court, the High Court of Paris, ruled in UFC Quasier's favor earlier this week, and Valve is obviously going to appeal this. But if that fails, it's going to have some ripple effects in France, but also in the EU and likely elsewhere as well. And so I want to talk about this for a minute. Just the concepts. Well, I'm no legal expert, so I don't want to delve too much in the weeds about ownership and yada yada. In America, I think it's been pretty well established that that the whole idea of the hypothetical is, well, when I die, who gets my iTunes library? You know, I purchased all these albums on iTunes and I want to leave them to my next of kin after I die. Am I allowed to do that? And it's been ruled that you can't, because you're not purchasing the music. You are purchasing a license to access the music in your name that is non-transferable to other individuals. I believe that's the way that that case worked. So I think that these fights have pretty well been fought, at least in those defining terms, in America. And so there's really, when you go all digital, there's no sense of ownership. And these waters are only going to get murkier as we continue into the subscription base. I just subscribed to Origin Access so that I can play Madden on PC and stream it tonight after the show. And you guys can watch me baby rage about the shittiness that is this game. Anyway, I don't own Madden. I am subscribed and have a right to a license for a month to Madden until I have to re-up for $15 for the next month. And that license is given to me again to purchase, or, you know, it stays active for me to play Madden. And so the idea of ownership is already really foggy, murky water to begin with. And it's only going to get murkier and muddier and less clear. But this idea that, okay, I bought a game on Steam, I should be able to go and resell that for whatever I deem to be a worthy market price for it because I own it. I just don't know how much weight. I think that it would be nice for us to live in that kind of a world. But when you purchase these things on Steam, you agree in the terms of service that you understand that there's an end user license agreement, that you are simply licensing it out, and you agree to the terms of that end user license agreement. And so I don't know how this works legally, at least in America, for something like this to work. And I don't know if those sorts of things have been laid out and determined in French law or in the EU, but that's at least the way that it works in America. So that's the legal side of things that I don't want to dwell on for much longer just because I'm talking out of my ass about it a little bit. From a practical standpoint, like, I feel like Steam would have to completely overhaul the infrastructure of how Steam works as a platform in order to be able to allow those kinds of purchases to happen safely, securely, without any shenanigans going on, without being able to game the system. And I think in order to protect, so the difference in, like, when I buy a used game, when I buy a disc-based game and I turn around to go sell that disc-based game to somebody else who is interested in it, I set the price for that game on my own, and I say, I believe I can get this much value from it. And the people that are purchasing it are not just determining its value based off of the price that I'm charging, but also in the effort it is going to take them to acquire this disc at that price. Because if I'm selling it on Craigslist, okay, I'm going to have to get in my car, figure out a meeting spot, meet this person, exchange cash with them. There's a whole slew of hoops that have to be jumped through. If you're selling this thing on eBay, even, it's like, okay, well, as a lister, I've got to go on, I've got to create the listing, I'm going to have to ship the thing, I'm going to have to, confirm through PayPal, yada, yada, I'm going to have to pay this fee. So there is a lot that goes into facilitating that kind of a sale, to where there's not as much undercutting in price going on, because people understand that their time, energy, and effort is worth money as well. And so it takes time, energy, and effort to make a physical sale like that. If you just open up a storefront, though, and all of the millions of users for Steam are able to just go into their library and games that they haven't played in 3 years and be like, okay, I'm going to undercut by this price, and I've determined that it's that value. And then me as a consumer, I'd be able to go in and just say, okay, well, all right, well, I really want to play this, I don't know, let's say I really want to play Devil May Cry 5. Oh shit, there's 50,000 people trying to sell their copy of Devil May Cry 5 because they're not going to play it anymore. Oh shit, here's a guy who's only asking for $3 for it. Like, you can see how the accessibility of it and the fact that, hey, I just slap a price tag on it and the platform takes care of the rest of it itself in terms of transferring the license. It becomes really easy to just say, like, all right, I'm going to undercut everything. I'm just going to be the cheapest option on the store. And because I've got a Steam library that's, as long as fucking Santa's list, I'll probably pull in a considerable amount of money for games I've never thought of before. And when you're facilitating that through a platform that people are going to purchase new games, there's literally no distinction between playing a brand new shiny digital unlock of a game or a used unlock of a game. There's no difference. Whereas in the physical world, you're having to worry, well, is there anything wrong with the disc? Does it have its original packaging? How was it taken care of before I purchased it? And so there's a peace of mind that comes with being able to purchase a brand new thing and its packaging from a store outside of buying it from Joe Smo over on Craigslist, who you're meeting in a Walmart parking lot with a crisp $20 bill. And so I wouldn't get too excited about any of this bringing any actual changes. I think it is worth mentioning and noting, but I just think that there are protections that have to be made for developers of these games so that they're not being undercut a month later when all of these games are going back on sale from people who have beat it and just are wanting to dump it and get rid of it. Because if the argument is I own it, I can sell it, then that means I can determine the value and the price at which I'm going to sell it. The only way I see this being able to work is if Valve says, okay, that's fine. You can resell your code. We're going to resell it for X amount. You're going to get X% of that. We're going to get X% for facilitating it. And the developer's going to get X% because it's their fucking game and it's the same as buying it new. there's a tightrope to be walked here. I want to be friendly to consumers and understand, but I think when we purchase digital things, we understand that like we don't actually own them and therefore don't actually have the right to sell them. But Valve's going to appeal this. I'm interested to see. We'll definitely keep up with how this goes through. The wheels of justice churn slowly though. So it may be a while before we get an update.